What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Gaikokukokujin Podcast once again. You got your man Pop over here. We got Willie over there.
I canceled Graham, so he's not on the show anymore. So. Graham's. We're doing a separate podcast, essentially. Me and Graham have like the after hour, and then me and Pop are trying to figure out what we're going to do as far as like the deep dive or something like that. But we'll be getting into a lot more conscious topics, I guess we could say, more real world topics. I mean, it's dope to talk about like anime and gaming and all that stuff, but just based off of a conversation that we had doing the music podcast, it brought up a lot of unanswered questions, a lot of real world questions. So a little backstory was me and Graham got into it about essentially the influence music has, and then we started getting into the influence it has on the Black community, as far as like when you see rappers doing all these things, as far as like selling drugs and having all these cars and all these women and things like that, and how it affects the younger generation. I'm not going to so much speak on how Graham took it and how he saw it, but we'll just say that we had a disagreement, so much that it got us completely off topic from our regular topic. But
we'll be posting that video soon.
Yeah. So we'll link the video back to this or vice versa. But it just got me and Pop thinking on a real note, is just like where we're at in the Black community. What does it mean to be a Black man in a successful Black man? Because I like to think I'm successful. And what does that mean as far as like our views on the community, how we came up? Like, I've traveled the world. Pop is definitely not from the United States. So we have two different perspectives from two different people who have either, I've grown up in the United States, born and raised in the United States, but since I joined the military, I've seen many parts of the world. And I've seen how the world views the Black community, Black men, Black people in general. It's kind of, sometimes it can be hypocritical. It's just how they view the States in general. I remember I was in Australia one time, and some chick was like, "Oh, you guys are Americans. Like, you guys are always shooting each other. Like, everybody has a gun." And I'm
That's
like,
crazy.
Yeah, I'm just like, so it's not only like the Black community and how we're viewed, it's just like worldwide how you're viewed in general from just being from America. But I'll let you speak on it a little bit.
All right. So as Will mentioned, like I'm kind of a special case. I am American, but I grew up the better part of my life in Jamaica, and my parents are from there. So and I also was in the military. I'm not in the military anymore. That's how I met Will. But pretty much like what I think, how people see us, a lot of it I think is stereotypical from what people see on the American media, whatnot. Like, oh, we play basketball, or we rap, or we like fried chicken, or we like McDonald's or stuff like that, like dumb stuff like that. Like I remember one time I was in Korea and I was lost on the train, and I guess the Korean dude saw that I was lost, but I guess he was into basketball and he assumed that I played basketball. And to be honest, like I haven't really played sports or anything like that. Outside of the military, like military was like the first time I've ever done like serious physical activity. But and like in Japan, like people like, oh, like you play basketball and like stuff like that. So it's like a bunch of these stereotypes that are kind of reinforced even when dating and stuff like that. It's sometimes it's novel, but a lot of the times it gets annoying because it's like we're not all the same. Like, you know, we all have different likes, we all have different dislikes. Like we're not just painted in the same broad stroke that the media likes to paint us as. So that's my thoughts on like how people outside of the United States and sometimes in the United States see us.
Yeah, and
What do you think?
that's a funny thing because I want to say I was in New Zealand, and I met this dude, and he was like, "Yeah, man, like you should." He was like, because he's like, "Oh, you're tall." He's like, "Yo, you should come play for our basketball team." And I'm like,
Exactly. It's like,
bruh, like I think I was like 26, 27 at the time, but by then I was
yeah.
like, I'm already washed up. I'm like, bro, I ain't played basketball in like 5-10 years. And he's like, no, you should come out here, go to school, play for our team, blah, 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 this and that. And I like to think he was just like blowing my head up, but this dude I felt like was dead serious. Like he was like, nah.
No, they're serious. They're serious, man.
And I'm thinking like, man, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, this would be dope. And then I'm gonna run into the other black dude who actually been playing, and I'm like, oh, I'm a phony out here. Like I've been exposed. Like, but I mean, that's the thing is like, man, it's just so much that goes into it, because the whole thing with the music thing that we were talking about with Graham, just like it was just a conversation where I don't want to speak on it, but from what I felt he was coming from is like, and another interview that I saw was some people like to think that, oh, since we're successful, anybody can do it. And it's not always the case, because I've seen friends, even family members who, even though they might have had the same opportunities of me, like their life choices, things that happened in their life wasn't necessarily allowing them to just be like, hey, I'm gonna just get out of the situation that I'm in. It goes back to people who grow up and they got like, I think there was you who were saying this, where they grow up, they have like 3 or 4 brothers and sisters. They might be the oldest, they might be the middle child, but then they have to get a job. They have to support the family. They have to keep on working. And sometimes your family can be the ones that hold you down and hold you back from doing things.
Word.
And
that's facts.
That's like a big thing in the community. And I don't think it's just the Black community, to be honest. I think it's in a lot of communities where everybody's like, yeah, you had the same opportunities, but it's not always the case. And you have to look at each individual situation. Now, do I think that some people allow these things to happen? Like, because it's like, yes, that is something that determines whether you're going to be successful or not. Because yeah, while you might leave your family of 5 to struggle and things like that, like you're going to struggle with them. So you have to break out. And I think that's like the biggest thing with being a successful person, or just being a successful Black man, if we're talking about the Black community, is I had to break away from a lot of the stuff that I was going through. As some people may know, some people may not know, I got shot back in like 2007 while going to school, while I had 3 jobs. And I remember getting shot, going up to the gas station, and like some lady who's literally buying beer, I'm like, yo, I got shot. And she just like, grabbed her beer, left her change in the whole dispenser, because you know in the hood you got the glass with the little drawer, doors, all that stuff. So she just left all their change, got in her car, skirted off, like just down, done. I'm like, yo, I've literally said, yo, I got shot, and you just like left me here. But the lady in the store let me in. I was halfway tempted to take that $5, to be honest, like, because it was like $5 to some change. I was like, well, if she ain't gonna take it, but I'm like, that's just me being dumb. But the cops roll up, and I'm in a red JCPenney shirt, and they're like, are you gang affiliated? And I'm like already in shock at this point, so I don't know what's going on. I'm like, yo, are y'all gonna help me or not? It's like 15 cops in the gas station, and they're like, are you gang affiliated? Are you gang affiliated? And I'm like, why are they asking me, am I gang affiliated, when I'm wearing a JCPenney shirt? Like, it literally said JCPenney's on the front. And it was just like, why am I being asked, am I gang affiliated? And you got to think, like, I mean, help me. Yeah, like I got shot, and it's just like, and your biggest question is like, yo, are you gang related? Like, and I'm just thinking to my head, like, is this what like my community is? Like, just because I got shot in the bad side of the neighborhood, like I was going to school full time. I had 3 jobs. That was the reason why I missed my bus, because I went to one job and then I went to another job, and then I missed my last train, or missed the last bus, because I took an extra shift and worked till like 1 o'clock in the morning. But it's just like that's just a norm in our neighborhood. Like people got shot, and it was just kind of like the cops never really did anything. Like they show up and just be like, oh, whatever, standing around like, oh, you probably deserve this. You probably run around in a gang or something like that. And that's just
Exactly.
like the belly of the beast. Like, and they wonder why people never want to call the cops, because it's like, I remember another instance where my window got busted out on election night. I'll always remember this election night. Obama got elected, and
Obama got like, yeah.
yeah, and my window got busted out. I know exactly who it was. Not gonna say nothing like that on here, but I called the cops. Like, yo, my window got busted out. I know who did it. At this address. They're like, yeah, we'll dispatch somebody out. Literally, like the shack is literally around the block, like down the hill, up the other hill, and the cop shack is right there. And they never showed up. Like, period. Like,
Damn.
I'm like, bro, like, what do I got to do out here? Like, so, I mean, imagine a real life situation, like, and they're just not showing up, like, but that's beyond that. Like, that's a little bit different. So, I know I got a little off topic, but I mean, that's just a little backstory for me, and my dealing with like just my community and just things like that, like coming up and the choices I had to make. Like, and the thing is like, even after I got shot, I still stayed in my neighborhood for a little while, and I moved out to another part of the neighborhood, but I was still, my mom still lived in the neighborhood, my cousins like still lived in the neighborhood and stuff like that. So it wasn't like I could ever get away from all this stuff, and the only way to really get away was to leave San Diego for me. So that's what I decided to do. Like that was like something that other people that I know didn't make a choice for, and that's like,
Yeah.
they all had the opportunity to make the choices. And to be honest, like I didn't have anything at the time when I decided to leave, so it's like everybody else literally had more opportunity than me to get out and see the world and things like that. So
Really? That's interesting.
yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I'd say, but the thing is like, so I get out into the real world, right? And then not much is different in any other parts of the world. Like, some people still like look at black people and it's like, oh, well, I'm gonna get robbed or mugged. Like, and it's just like, bro, like, I don't want to mug you. Like, I know situations where I've literally gone up to people and been like, yo, and they're like, oh shit. Like, and they just run away. Like, cause it's the middle of the night and I'm over here like trying to ask for directions or something. But I will say that something that changed me in my perspective and just like looking back on, like, I wanted to be not so much different, but I wanted to like really get back in touch with my roots and everything like that, was I went to Africa, and that was like life-changing, to be honest, because one, it's just like they call it the motherland for a reason. Like, you get back and you're just like, bro, like it's just like black owned businesses, black everywhere. Like, it's just like, I don't think I seen any white people where I went, to be honest. Like, I didn't see any Mexicans. I didn't see any, like, nothing, like no other races, maybe a couple of Asians, but that's about it. But I mean, at this point, that's to be expected. I mean, everybody's expanding, everybody's moving out of their locations. And Africa was just different. Like, the people are super humble. There are a lot of dangerous neighborhoods out there still. But for the most part, like, it's just like a forgotten place. And I really, even though I felt at home, I was just like, yo, what can you do here to like really build this back up? Like, and it's not like it's like how they show it on the TV, like where it's like not a bunch of dudes in huts and a bunch of dudes in like throwing spears and stuff like that. Like, bro, like, it's not that serious. Like, there are parts of that. Like, I will say that I was like flying over parts of Africa and I was like looking down, I was like, yo, is that a whole tribe out there? Like legit, like running out here? Like, I'm like, yo, what's that? But
so just go
ahead. No, you good.
Yeah. I don't mean to jump in, but
no, you're good.
Like, Will was telling me about this earlier, and I'm really glad he mentioned it. I'm really glad he felt that, because that is a perspective that I've always had, and I feel like as an immigrant, or rather the son of an immigrant, that Will kind of understands, and that once you live in a predominantly black country, it's so different. Like, as he said, like you don't have to be like hypersensitive to what's around you. Like, you can go in a store, you're just a normal customer, you don't get harassed by the police, or the potential isn't really there. Like, you just there's a certain weight that lifts off your shoulders. It's a good feeling. It's like a very warm feeling that I think that a lot of blacks in America don't really know, because they're stuck into this bubble. What was I gonna say? I can edit this out, but
no, you're good. But that brought me back to, I mean, even like touching on what you're saying is like the cops out there, like I walk up to the cops and they're like, oh, Americans, like, but I mean, that's the thing too, is like, even when I was out there, bro, like Africans act just like us. Like, it's not like, it's like how everybody's like, oh, you're acting black. It's like, no, I'm just acting like me. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like one of those like culture shocks where it's just like, no, we're just out here to have a good time. Like, we all work. Like, and the thing is, like, bro, I always thought it was weird. Like, when I like see people and I remember them from like 10, 15 years, and I'd be like, oh, yo, I remember your name, blah, 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 this and that. Bruh, I'm telling you, when I went to the hotel, I would be gone for like weeks. And I come back and the hotel doorman be like, oh, Will, welcome back. And that reminds me.
That's crazy.
Yeah, Richard. Richard is the dude who used to make my breakfast every morning, make my omelets and stuff at the hotel. Not like that. Not like, because we had No, we were staying at the hotel that provided breakfast, but he was the omelet dude. And he literally every morning be like, oh, Mr. Coleman, like, I got your omelet. I got you. And he just put everything on there because I ordered the same thing, of course. Like, yo, omelet with cheese, eggs, like, or something like meat, like all that stuff. And every morning that I would come back, he'd be like, oh, Mr. Coleman, I got you. He was like, go ahead and get everything else. And I go sit down. The chick would bring me coffee. Hey, Mr. Coleman, like, pour me coffee and stuff like that. And it wasn't so much like they didn't have to remember my name. Like, you see how many people go through there all the time. And he's like, I built a personal relationship with these people where it was
exactly,
just like, oh, Richard, like, I come down and be like, hey, Richard, like, I appreciate you, like, things like that. And I remember one time he was like, hey, I don't know if it's too much to ask, but can you leave a review on our page and tell them how you feel about everything in the hospitality? And I was like, yeah, like, what? Like, hell yeah. Like,
it's
and
too
he gave
easy.
me a card. Yeah, exactly. So it's like little things like that. Like, and I used to do that stuff all the time where I'd remember people's names. I remember like their orders and stuff when I used to work at like food restaurants and things like that. If I see somebody, I'm like, hey, what's up? Like, and that's just like hospitality. And just like, I always used to think that was weird. Just like, but it's like you get around people who are just like you, and it just became normal. Like, there was a lot of pressure that was lifted off of my shoulders, like being back in Africa. And I see why people are like, oh, I'm trying to get back to Africa, because like, no cap, like, that was some of the best times I had. Like, I had more fun in Africa than I ever had in like Europe. Maybe not Japan, just because Japan's like a little bit wild and stuff, like in the just the food and the atmosphere. And then there's another level of just like, but that's another country where it's like, being black in this country isn't necessarily like, oh, damn, like, it's kind of just like, because like, truthfully, if you're a black American in Japan, they're like, oh, you're not Nigerian. Like, I'm sorry if you're Nigerian, but like, they literally be capping out there. Like, at times, like, not all Nigerians, but like, first thing they say, hey, stay away from these Nigerian clubs. Like, and that's just one of those things where it's like, oh, you speak English? Oh, cool. They're like, oh, thank God, you're an American black guy. It's like, oh, you're an American black guy. But that's the thing, is like, I mean, it goes back into still being like a lot of black hate, because they don't like, I don't know if they don't like Africans or they just don't like Nigerians. Like, or
so,
I mean, yeah, you could probably
sorry
talk
to cut
more
you
now.
off.
No.
Sorry to cut you off, but it's just to input, just to buffer your argument. So the one time I went to Thailand, it was the same issue where I guess like the Nigerians that are there, they're in the 19s or whatever, and they allegedly they deal with illegal trades of substances. So they have that stereotype.
Yeah.
Like, oh, if you're black, you might be Nigerian, and they might do that stuff. And it's kind of like the same thing in I believe in mainland Japan. They're like pretty much the bouncers in a lot of these clubs and whatnot. So I think that's where they get the bad rap. Then on top of that, you know, the American media, how they perceive us and all that stuff, or portray us rather. Yeah. So I think that's where it all comes from, specifically to Nigerians, but obviously not all of them are like that. Not all of them are like that. So
yeah, and that's the thing is like, I mean, this talk has really stemmed from just not so much like black oppression. I mean, there's a lot of oppression in general around the world, but it's just, I don't know, man. Like, it just like everybody like always dogs on me for just being out the country. Like one of my homeboys is like, oh, you're a foreigner now. And it's just like, to be honest, like I've been enjoying my time overseas. Like it's a lot of like I think about just walking like down the streets in the middle of the night, bro. Like I don't have to really worry about somebody running up on me with a gun or stuff like that. Now, granted, somebody can run up on me with a knife, but still, even then, I feel more confident in that than like a dude just running up on me and being like, yo, I'm gonna shoot you. And I've been shot before. So there's always that like thought in the back of my head. I mean, I'm always cautious. I'm always aware of my surroundings to the most part. But it even goes back to just being generous. Like I remember I was in Africa again, and I got out the cab, and of course, like if you ever been out the country, they got the street peddlers like with the kids and everything like that.
Yeah.
So they ran up on me, and it was like one older kid and two younger kids. I tipped the cab driver, and he was still trying to get more money because it's like it's one of these countries where like they see Americans or they see foreigners in general.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, you got money. Like, hey, like, come on, man, let me get like $5 more. Like, and it's like, come on, man. Like, I already tipped you. Like, at some point you have to be generous or grateful for what you get. But I remember like the older kid, like being like, oh, come on, man. Like, let me get like $10. And I'm thinking like looking at the little kid and I'm like, bro, like, what about him? Like, I was like, you look like you grown man. Like this dude literally looked like he was like 19, like 20, maybe. Like he was at least a teenager, like a older teenager, like
older teenager.
Yeah, like at least 17 and up. And I'm like, bro, you should be out here getting a job. Like you shouldn't be out here begging for money. Like, and that's just me hitting them with hardcore facts. Like, bro, like if I give you this money, what are you going to do with it? Because if you're just going to put it in your pocket and keep it pushing, then it is what it is. And that's the thing is like with everybody else around them, like they can only beg from Americans, like, or foreigners, like, because everybody else who lives there is just going to be like, yo, like, get out of here, go get a job. Like, we're going into the club because we have jobs. We're relaxing on a Friday and you're out here begging for money. And I'm not one to judge or anything like that. Like, if you got to hustle how you hustle, if it's a known hustle and you just got to do it, then all power to you. But for me personally, I was like, nah. So the little kid was like, oh, sir. And it's like, yo, I got a soft spot for the kids. So I was like, yo, like, and the thing is, like, I've seen, we had a homegirl down there, pretty much who was like, yeah, the little kids gather the money and then the older kids take the money from them. So you kind of got to be cautious about how you did it. Yeah. And the thing is, like, it's so sad, bro. Like, because the kids will travel in packs and stuff like that. And it'll be like, well, I only got 5. And then it's like 7 kids and they're all trying to like get a dollar. So, but I gave the kid like a $5 or $10 or something like that. And then I was like, yo, hide this, like, make sure it's good. So we go into the bar or whatever, have dinner and all that stuff. And when I'm coming out, we've been drinking a little bit and we're like, all right, cool. We're going to go to this other place just to kick it. And me being me, I'm exploring all the time. Everybody, if anybody's been out with me, they already know, like, yo, don't trust this man for directions for anything. Cause it's like, I'll get us lost. I don't care, but we'll eventually get to where we need to go. But there was a street and I was like, oh, this is a shortcut. And the kid ran up and he's like, no, don't go this way. Bad people, pretty much. He was saying like, oh, like you don't want to be down the street at the middle of the night. And I'm like, if I hadn't given him that money, if I had just blown him off, then
exactly,
like what would have happened? Like, and that's the thing, goes back to being generous and just, that's how I was when I was younger. That's how I've always been. It's just like, yo, you help me out, I'll help you out. And truthfully, I don't see that a lot And I guess we could, I mean, I'm just speaking from my point of view as like the black community and like poor communities in general. Cause like, granted, I'm not saying I came from like the slums, but like when my mom was like raising us, like we moved a lot, bro. Like it wasn't like nothing was sweet. Like my mom's a single mother. She was a teacher. Um, she had 2 kids, like, and she was doing everything by herself. So it was like, and the thing is like, she was doing everything by herself, but she still tried to provide things for us to be like, you don't want to be running the streets. So I'm gonna put you in this program. It's gonna cost me a little extra, but I'm gonna make sure that you're good. And of course, I didn't appreciate it back then. I'm a kid. I mean, it was fun to be like, hey, I'm going to Boston, and hey, I'm doing all these things. I went on college tours and things like that. So it does come down to the person and how you're raised, but I just don't feel like that's instilled in everybody. And even to this day, there's people that were sitting on the block when I was a kid who are still sitting on the block, bro. Like same spot, like same stuff, same Friday night. Oh, roll up, homies, roll up, sitting up. And it's just like, at what point, like, does that change? Like, I mean, these people have been going through a lot. I mean, and the thing is, the generation that came before us went through even more, and then the generation before them went through more, and then we can just go back in the history books, and it's just like everybody's kind of, it's a domino effect that's just been kind of like getting better and better and better and better and better. And I feel like we're the generation that's supposed to change things because we have so many opportunities to change things.
Yeah. Social media, it has a lot of negatives, but it has a lot of positives as well. Like even just talking, for instance, right now, like, can try and send a positive message out there. But I know, like, Will pretty much like said his point of view with this whole, like, just in general, the state of the black community. I can tell you right now, even though I haven't been to Jamaica in like over a decade, nearly 2 decades, it's pretty much the same. Some of the dynamics are different, but it's pretty much the same. Just to kind of zone in on like the dynamic in Africa, it's kind of the same in Jamaica in that you have a good amount of really destitute people. I'm talking about people that like live in like zinc or makeshift house, to like you have the kids that go out in the road in traffic and like try to wash windows and stuff. So but just to zone in on what he was talking about, like, he had an opportunity to get out there, to get out of San Diego because of the stuff that was going on, while others maybe had the opportunity but decided to sit there. I think that's where a slight difference in terms of black immigrants that come to America versus, black Americans who are foundationally black. So in a lot of other countries, like in Jamaica and whatnot, there's no opportunities. There's no military to go to. There's no, there's universities there and whatnot, but they're like the scholarships that they have in the States. So I know for a fact that in my high school, like almost half of the class, they just migrated to the UK, England, America, Canada, or UK is England, but we know what I mean. They migrated. There's been a huge like loss of skilled people from Jamaica and other parts of the Caribbean because there's not a lot of opportunity. So I think when people come to America, I guess black immigrants kind of appreciate it more. But also trying to flip that on its head, I'm kind of going into another area, but I think there's been talks from what I've seen on YouTube and whatnot, there's this, I'm foundationally black versus, the immigrant blacks. And I know for a fact that a lot of immigrant blacks, especially the older generation who came off of the boat, they kind of look down on foundational black Americans because they see the opportunity that's lost. Like they see the opportunity that they can get from being in America, and where a lot of foundational black Americans may not take that opportunity. And I think a lot of foundationally Black Americans may look at Black immigrants as like backward or like, poor or live in huts and whatever.
Well, that's the
And I
thing too,
think,
is like, sorry to cut you off, but
yeah, you're good.
I think that immigrant Blacks, like immigrants from other countries like Jamaica, Africa, and stuff like that, they hold to their traditions.
Yeah,
And I feel like foundational Blacks who are in the States, we don't really have like that culture
that's
to
big.
hold on to.
That's
Like,
big.
that's like, it's like, what do we like? You got to think like we grow up on like whenever Black people in the States, like just straight up American Blacks talk about like, oh, back in the day is like getting your ass beat, being home alone. Like you better not forgot the chicken, stuff like that, like going to your grandma's house, going to your uncle's house, stuff like that. But that's not really like, it's not a
culture.
Yeah, anything past that is kind of just like there's no traditions past like, oh, we're going to grandma's house on Thanksgiving or like Uncle Joe's house on Christmas, things like that. And I feel like when you come from these other countries like Jamaica and Africa, like you have like your home cooked meals, like your dishes that you're like, oh, we're gonna do this dish for Thanksgiving, and this is a Christmas dish, and this is this and that. And I mean, I guess to a certain extent we do, but like, man, baked macaroni and cheese ain't like like it's good and all, but
you kind of finished up my point for me, where it's like, before I even get to the end of what I'm talking about, like, I think the reason why maybe that's more so before. I think now it's getting better, but I think even before, there are a lot of the reasons why foundational Black Americans may like not take the opportunities because they're stuck because of the society, what society tells them, and all that stuff. And a big thing is culture, right? Yeah. So you look at all the immigrants, Black immigrants included, they all have a culture, right? At the end of the day, if society is like messing with them, if they're feeling down or whatever, they can go home. They have their family, they have their traditions, they have their food, they have their music. Because I'm telling you, like, anytime the Olympics is on, I'm always repping Jamaica. Yeah. Like, every time I go home, because I'm currently living in Japan, every time I go home, you already know I'm getting some jerk chicken and some curry chicken, some rice and peas, some plantain. Like, you already know, like. But I think it's a big thing that one of the legacies of slavery and whatnot is that they deleted the culture in America, and it's so specific in America because at least in the other colonies, right, British colonies specifically, the British kind of held the colonies that they were 7,000 miles away. They were a couple thousand miles away. So when they got independence, they were just left to themselves, so they could start to build a culture or whatever. Yeah. But the difference with Blacks that were in America after emancipation and slavery, they were still living on the same land with the oppressors, with the former slave masters. So it was kind of hard to kind of build something because after slavery, there was Reconstruction and there was Jim Crow. So it's like constantly messing with the foundational Black Americans. So I think that's a big issue, is identity.
Yeah, it's a huge identity crisis.
Yeah.
And the thing is like you got to think like most Black Americans haven't been out of the United States to these countries. So it's like, so when people go to these countries, they're kind of like, oh my, like what? Like, oh, y'all living like this? Y'all living good over here? Bro, when I was in Africa, I was like, yo, like, and it's not like ratchet Blacks out there, like anything like that. Like I'm talking about like full suits, like I got the dashiki and everything, bro. Like I'm talking about, when I went to Africa, I got mine custom made, so it literally fits me. Like it's like this, and bro, his was so clean. I was like, yo, I want yours. I was like, I want one like that. He's like, yo, chill. And the thing is, like, it's like, bro, it just felt so dope being back over there because it was just like, it's just, I don't know, man. It's like you think like all these things that we have in the Black culture that are just kind of like, is this how we really are? And then you get into other parts of the world and you're like, oh, we really are like this. Like, and that's the thing with all these other cultures is like Asians have whatever Asian country they want to go back to. Indians, whatever country they want to go to, Afghans, whatever country they want to go to, like or Middle Eastern, it doesn't matter where you're coming from, but like for blacks to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go back to Africa, like I don't have
it's
like
foreign.
it's
Exactly.
like it's
connection.
like super foreign, like, and not saying that everybody has somebody to go back to in these countries, because there are like a lot of like what is it, like first generation like American families that are just like, I've never, like you have Asians and all these other races that have never been to their home country or anything like that. But
exactly, yeah.
America in general is just like a melting pot. But I do feel like people should reconnect with potentially just checking in where their ancestors came from and just like going and seeing that country, like kind of holding on to something. And it's like, everything right now is so radical. It feels like it's like you're either like pro-black or you're not pro-black, or
black, yeah,
like you're we were watching a video about liberals versus conservative blacks, and it's just like, why is it always like against each other? Like it's always like,
why can't just be us? Like, just us. Like why it has to be like
But that's the thing, is like you go to Japan, and that's the thing I started realizing is like, think about when we were in Japan, like, and you're still currently there, like for them to see like an American, or I mean, think about like the deep parts of Japan where they literally like people have grown up and never seen like an American, a black guy, an African, and somebody from another country, let alone Japan. Like, and it's just like in America, like we're just so split that it's just like you don't really have that. Like there's people in Japan who literally never seen any other races besides on TV. And that's kind of crazy to me, because like, I don't know, man, like it's there's so much that goes into it. But the thing is like, I feel like we're just so stuck on a lot of things that don't matter. So like, if you look at the black community and everything like that, like black Twitter, as funny as it is, like sometimes it just be like, yo, this is just some like ignorant stuff, like
stuff.
It's just like, I mean, I get it, it's all fun and games and stuff like that, but like the whole cancel culture, and I'm just like, what is this, bro? Like, why are we like, imagine if we spent that much time like creating something, like doing something like Black Twitter, like as a corporation, like as like we're already using Black Twitter as like it's somebody else's platform that we're using it, like, because I mean, make your own platform. Like, that's the thing, is like, if you want to make memes and like cancel people and do all this other stuff, do it on another platform. Like,
exactly.
You got like, think about it. Oh no, go ahead.
But sorry to cut you off.
No. I'm just spouting nonsense at this point.
But it points out to something that the conversation that we were having with Graham about the music industry. Oh, yeah. And I was pointing out, like, in general, blacks don't own anything really major, especially the bread and butter of the black community. That's like sports and entertainment. How many black people own the labels? How many black people own the football teams, the basketball teams, the soccer teams, or whatever like? We don't own really anything of significance like that.
And that's the thing too, is like there are a lot of black owned businesses and things like that, but it's like how we were talking about, like how CEOs are pulled from like Asian and like Indian countries and things like that. Like, and it's just like, you're not hearing, I mean, I'd have to do some more research, but I doubt people are being like, oh, we got to pull this scientist from Africa. Like,
exactly.
Like, we got to go get this dude from Jamaica. Like, he's gonna save the world.
We have, I'm not saying that we don't have black businesses, own businesses at all. I'm not trying to, portray that point, but I'm saying in like big, like multi-billion-dollar industries, especially in the ones that we dominate in sports and entertainment. Like we're the black people, we're the black owners, man. Like,
but that's the thing, is because so much money. Because that's the most of the things that we consume, like entertainment and sports. So I mean, the world consumes all that stuff too. Like, I mean, that's not just. But that's the thing, is like, it's so much money in those businesses already that it's like you literally have to work generations just to get enough money to even own a part of that. Like, I mean, I know Jay-Z I know I want to say somebody from the Milwaukee Bucks, one of the black players on there, started buying into the company and stuff like that. And there's a few here and there. They're buying into these companies and like part owners and stuff like that, but they don't necessarily own it. And of course, like if you think like somebody like Jay-Z, who's made billions, like what, he was the first rapper to be a billionaire, or it was him or Dr. Dre.
We gotta look that up.
Yeah,
I can't say for certain.
Yeah, but either way, they both made billions of dollars. So let's say that, or billions, like not like big money billions, like not top echelon of the world billions, but they broke that barrier. But think about how long it took them and how much stuff they had to do and where they came from. Like, not saying that it's impossible, but like they're like almost like anomalies because it's so far in between where we're at. Think about where we're at. Like, we're still growing. We're still trying to gain wealth to a certain level where we can be like, okay, we are wealthy. We are on a higher echelon and we can start looking into things like that. But even with that being said, like, it's not, that's something that I look at and I'm like, yo, that's not easy for everybody to do. Like, I feel like anybody to get to where I'm at in my life right now, not impossible, but definitely not like
it's not.
Yeah, it's not the hardest thing in the world. Like, you can own a car, you can have a house, you can have money in the bank, things like that. Do things that you want to do. You can travel. That's a different, like, I'd say we're middle class. We'll just say that. So we're middle class. We can do things that we want.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll put it to you like this. I think black people are like one of the toughest set of people on this earth because we went through a lot of stuff. We still go through a lot of stuff. And I know, like, you know, sometimes it's hard. You know, we're stuck. You know, we grow up in a single parent household. You get all these bad influences around you. But at the end of the day, I think you gotta have some sort of self-accountability. And it's like, you gotta decide, like, hey, am I gonna give up and gonna let these outside negative influences influence me, or I'm gonna do something about it? Like, so, I mean, my situation wasn't dire like yours,
yeah. But that's the thing. We're still in the same spot when it comes to the end of the day. Like, that's what I was saying, as far as like, my life pushed me to this point, but your life didn't necessarily have to be that hard. Like, I doubt there's a lot of people who got shot and it was like, oh, I got to get my life together. And not saying that I got my life together right away. Like, I did a lot of dumb stuff after that, to the point where I kind of dug myself into the situation that I was in. But I always had that resiliency to be like, okay, I don't want to be here forever. And it goes back to like, I mean, that's the thing. People have grown up a lot worse than us. If we look at people who haven't succeeded in the hood, people who haven't succeeded in the communities we grew up in, it's like, it's you have to find what is going to get you out of there. And granted, a lot of people never do. I mean, there's a lot of choices in my life that could have put me pretty much right where I'm talking about. But it's just like, how do we break that generational break it? There's a lot of things in the community in the lower. I mean, if we're talking just about the black community, I mean, like, we're talking about like poor neighborhoods in general, like neighborhoods that have high crime. I mean, if you got, who was it? What was it? It was one of the comedians where he's like, oh, are we in the hood? He's like, liquor store, liquor store, liquor store, liquor store. Like, I think it was like Dave Chappelle or something like that. But like, that's kind of like, you see this stuff all the time. Like, I remember up the street, the liquor store that was up the street, bro, like, they were closed like almost every 6 months. And then we'd always be like, why they closed? Oh, the owner got shot again. Like, bro, like, and this was like clockwork, bro. Like nobody should be owning this business, bro. Like, it was that serious. Like, that liquor store got robbed all the time, bro. Just like I was telling Graham, like, the Four Corners of Death in San Diego, like, everybody jokes about it, but like, bro, that's real life. Like, and there's a lot of things in my neighborhood that could have deterred me away from being successful. But like, I feel like how they say is like, yo, you're kind of a product of your environment. And a lot of people take that to heart, because I mean, I had a lot of positive influences in my life because of my mom and who she kept me in contact with and things like that. But I think about some of my other friends who literally just didn't have the same at all. Like they literally, as many positive aspects as I had in my life, they had that many negative aspects in their life. And
Wow.
yeah, so it's like, I don't know. I think the hood is a mentality to a certain extent, but
It's definitely a mentality, man, for sure.
mm,
For sure. Because I think, I shouldn't say solution, but I think that could help. Identity is a big thing. Like, I don't know, maybe someday or somehow, if Black Americans like us could kind of reinvent our image to have like an identity, like Juneteenth, like, Juneteenth became a
yeah.
holiday, stuff like that, like just kind of reinvent ourselves, I guess, culturally.
Well, that's the thing. I
Maybe we
think it
could,
is
yeah,
happening. Like that's what I'm saying. Like
it is
us as
happening.
a
It is
yeah,
happening. Yeah.
like us as a generation are kind of the ones that need to set the foundation for this. And I think that's
Yeah.
why we decided to do a video like this, because like we've been streaming for what, a year and a half now.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
kind of working our way through these platforms and seeing which one is going to be our best way to communicate our voice, because even though everybody might not want to hear this, there's always going to be somebody who might watch our video and be like, yo, you know what? I can relate to these struggles. I mean, I think about when I go home, there was one time my homeboy, he definitely didn't make all the right choices I made. And at a certain point, he had a daughter and he was just
Mhm.
like, yeah, man, I'm trying to get out the streets. Like, I'm kind of tired of this, like the same old every day. Everybody above me was like, yo, this is what you want. This is what we need to be. And he kind of just like got out of that mentality. So I don't think it's something that can't be taught. I just think that more positive influences need to be put out there. And like we were talking about, like not so much propaganda, but like just the way music is shown in like rappers and things like that. It's always like, not always, but for the ones that are mainstream, the ones that are shown more than like the conscious rappers and things like that, it's always like drugs, cars, money, girls, like
Money.
yeah. And it's like
It's perpetuated.
all the conscious rappers get swept under the rug. Like, and that's the thing too, is like I remember talking to my boys about B.O.B. and B.O.B's probably been putting out conscious rap for the last 4 years, and they're like, B.O.B., you mean that dude who made like Strange Clouds and airplanes? Yeah. And I'm just like, are y'all serious? Like B.O.B. has like, look up his albums. He has like that I think it's like Earth, Wind, Fire albums, like no cap. It's like Elements. I think if you look up Elements by B.O.B., it's all of his albums, but it starts getting into conscious rap. And it's not so much like anything that's like, that shouldn't be heard. Like, it's just not what they would play on the radio, period. It's not what they would put on MTV and be like, oh yeah, B.O.B. is talking about like corruption and all these companies and all this other stuff and cracking the black neighborhoods and things like that. Like that stuff. I mean, Jay-Z kind of got away with it. Nas got away with it a little bit, but like that wasn't something. Go ahead.
Sorry, but am I tripping though? Like, remember back in the 80s and 90s where they had all these black shows like Living Color, Martin?
Oh yeah.
Cosby Show?
Yeah.
Like, where are they now?
I mean, truthfully, I don't watch TV. They do have a couple good shows. Like I think Blackish is one where it's like they do have. So that's the thing too, is like,
was it on the same level though?
Blackish was. That one was actually about a chick in college and like all the things that she's going through. Like, you know, like you get to college, there's all of these bad influences as far as drugs and things like that. So I'm not going to say there aren't shows out there like that, because I don't watch regular TV, period.
Yeah, sorry guys.
No. That's but I'm not saying that, but I do feel like, I mean, we always go back to like what you call it, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Like I think I posted something on my Instagram today, which my Instagram link is below if you guys want to see me post random stuff. But
mine too. I need to get on that.
But we also got our podcast one. But yeah, there was a scene where Will Smith got shot, and I almost forgot about it. But Will Smith got shot, and he blocked it blocked the bullet from Carlton, and Carlton like had that snap to reality where he was like, yo, the justice system isn't going to help us. Like, and he had like went and got a gun and he's like, yo, I'm gonna go find this guy. But that's kind of like those shows, like back then it didn't click with us like that. But now we look back and it's like, oh, they were trying to tell us like all this stuff all along. We just had to pay attention to it. And granted, I will say that those shows did instill some positive views on us. Like Bill Cosby, even though with all the bad stuff that's going on with him, like his show, if I'm just speaking on his show,
his product,
he was a black doctor, like, and he wanted his
kids.
Didn't see
that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I saw it, but it wasn't like clicking in my head like, yo, this dude is a black doctor. Like, it was just like, oh, the Huxtables, like they're living in a good health. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, like, oh, he's a judge. Like, they're rich.
Uncle Phil's a judge. You know how big that is?
Yeah, exactly. Like, and it was just like, it wasn't clicking. It was just like, oh, some rich black people, dope. Like, and the thing is, like, their houses kind of look like ours. Like, even though it was like, oh, on the outside they're living in mansions and big houses, like you could relate to it because it's like, oh, I got a kitchen like that. Like their kitchen isn't that much bigger. So it kind of brought you back down to like, okay, so what is the difference between being successful and just like what I'm doing now? It took my mom a long time to get us to that point. Like there was one point where like, yeah, like me and my sister were pretty much sleeping in the same room, and we had like a 2-bedroom house. Like we had bunk beds, and my mom made it fun because she's like, oh, you guys got bunk beds? And it was like, all right, I get top bunk, even though I fell off that motherfucker like all the time, bro. Like, but yeah, it was kind of like our parents, or at least I feel like that generation hid all the trauma from us. So we never really just,
for sure. Yeah.
But at this point, like children are becoming more self-aware. They're not falling for the same tricks we were falling for. Like, and not saying that we're dumb or anything. We're just like, oh, we're having a good time. Like, but I think like all the stuff that's being put out in the media, all the stuff that's being put out on TV, and just the fact that the kids now have so much access to the internet that it's just like they're rapidly developing, and there's no filter on the amount of content that you can take in. And like some people have said, is like too much information can be actually bad for you, because you need to be able to process what is wrong and right. And I think that's what's just happening, is like there is no like line on what's wrong and right. It's just kind of like opinions. Everybody's throwing their opinions out, but
it's either opinions or likes or follows and all that stuff.
And that's validation for like what's right and what's good and what's bad and things like that. Like, so
I mean, it's instant. It's like the
instant
next
gratification.
Instant, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. But I mean, people like us, like our generation, a little bit is we know what it takes to grind to things. Like even with starting a new YouTube channel, like this was a big jump from us for like going from streaming, you're doing your vlog and everything like that, and then it's just like, yo, let's just start a YouTube channel. But truthfully, I feel like this has been one of the better moves. So but we wouldn't have got here if we wouldn't have gone through all the stuff that we went through. Like we knew that it was a slow process, that we're not just gonna jump on a platform and just be successful, even though we wanted to. And truthfully, I feel like I could have been more successful with my streaming, but it was just nothing was lining up, to be honest. Like I had school, I got a lot of stuff going on, just trying to get my personal life together and everything like that. So it was very demanding, and I just didn't feel like I would be able to give everything to my viewers and everything to people who sub to my channel. And I was just like, it's no point in me half-assing it if I'm not going to be able to provide. Not to mention, like there was a slope in gaming, which we'll probably talk about that at some point. I know. But once Graham gets here, he definitely has been talking about, he wants to talk about gaming. So that'll probably be like one of our next coming up podcasts. But for sure, this topic was something that's been weighing on both of us. And truthfully, I just wanted to get the information out there to just kind of touch bases on everything, like the Black community in general. And this is me speaking from my personal experience. I can't talk on everybody else's community, but if you want to come in here and you're from another community and kind of put your input out and like tell us what you feel like, what it was like growing up in a different community. Man. Like that's what we're really trying to get is just like, how can we
dialogue?
Yeah. How can we like pinpoint what the things are that are kind of just holding people back in any type of community that you're growing up with? I mean, what else did we touch bases on? Let's see.
I think we got everything. Pretty much what we were talking about earlier, like, you know, Africa, Jamaica differences, and, you know, Black immigrants, foundational Black Americans, like what we can do better, a little bit of what the issues are. Yeah, I think to sum it up in a nutshell, like, I think Blacks in general, like the Black diaspora, whether you're from UK, Canada, America, Caribbean, Africa, we just need to stop like the infighting and, you know, the measuring contest. I feel like we just should come together, use our strengths, and kind of just work together to kind of build ourselves up, you know. And also, if any of you watching take anything from this rant that me and Will are going on, get your passport and travel.
Oh yeah.
Whether like if you can't afford it and looking for a good career, I'm not trying to recruit you into the military or anything, but the military is a good stepping stone. You know, you do your 4 years and you get out, travel the world, or, you know, save up some money, get a good job or get a trade, you know, get a degree and travel, man. Travel, because it will open your eyes. And get out of that little town that you're in and just travel and see the world.
Because even if you don't join the military, like I guarantee you can fly out of the country, like
exactly
for about $800 to $1,000. Like you can go someplace really nice. And the biggest thing is about getting out of the country. Once you're out of the country, it's so much cheaper to travel.
Exactly.
Like everybody's like, yo, the States is super expensive. The States is super expensive. It is. I'm not gonna cap.
It is.
Yeah. I don't want to go back just for that. Like, I mean, in Europe, we got trains, we got buses, you got boats, you got all types of stuff. I mean, I was just pricing for me to go from here to Amsterdam. It's like $78 round trip on a train.
That's insane.
Yeah, and Amsterdam is probably about 4 or 5 hours away, or maybe 6. But it's not like, it's like the equivalent of driving from like San Diego to Las Vegas, and you're paying $70 to get there and get back and have fun there. Like, and that's the thing too, is like you go to Vegas, you go to LA, you go to all these major cities, and it's expensive. Like at one point I paid $44 for 2 Vegas bombs. And that's not even saying like, oh, you just need to be drinking or anything like that. But like just the sightseeing alone in all these countries is free, like literally free. Like if you show up to a country, you can probably catch a bus to like a walking trail, a lake, mountains, the Swiss Alps, like all this stuff. And even in Japan, like, but that's the thing, even in Japan, like you could go to Tokyo and then be on a train, and then now you're in Osaka. I saw Fuji. Like I went to a Magic the Gathering tournament, and I was in Shikuoka, and we were literally at the base of Fuji, like waking up, come out the door, Fuji's right there. And I'm just like, bruh. And I want to say for that whole trip, it was like maybe $300. Like that's what I'm saying. And I'm talking about $300 with the Airbnb. Like, and the Airbnb wasn't small. Like, truthfully, the places out in Shikuoka or Shizuoka were
Shizuoka, I think. Forgot what it's called.
Yeah, but I'll look it up. I'll link it. I swear. But it was a lot bigger than the main cities like Tokyo apartments and things like that. I mean, but even those, like, because we got a couple Airbnbs in Tokyo, and that's the thing too, is like the Airbnbs, bro. Like me and Cox got an Airbnb for $64 for the both of us. Like,
it's insane.
Yeah, and it was like we had a decent amount of space. Like it wasn't like too cramped or anything, and it was literally for us to just lay down and go to sleep. And there was a 7-Eleven down the street. There was a Domino's down the street. Like
Japan, man.
Oh, and
convenience
don't even get me.
Yeah. Second to none.
Second to none. 7-Eleven on every corner, and you could get a whole meal at a 7-Eleven. Like
yep.
Rice what is it? Rice
Yeah, the bento
balls,
boxes. Yeah.
all that stuff. Like, bruh, and the food is so much healthier.
Yo, check out for you guys watching, check out my vlog at High Side Gaijin San. I'm gonna leave the link in the description. I'm telling you, man, like Japan
Yeah,
is great. And as Will said, like if you live in Japan, pretty much $200 can take you anywhere in East Asia, even in Southeast Asia. So like Thailand, Singapore, uh, Korea, Taiwan,
yeah,
all
like
those places like super cheap.
yeah. What
And
I
it's
regret is
generally cheaper on
not.
the side.
I regret not going to see the Great Wall of China because
As an
yeah,
American, I don't know. We're
yeah,
kind of wilding right now.
I know.
But it would be nice to
But
see
yeah,
it, though.
it would. I mean, back then it wasn't like this crazy thing. It was
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, traveling for sure is like, I recommend that to anybody. Like, if you want to know something about anything, if you want to see, not necessarily just if you want to see the difference in America and other countries, and I'm not saying, oh, go to Canada. I'm not saying, oh, go to Mexico. Like, because that's a lot of people who are just like, oh, I went to Mexico. Like, I went to the Key West or Key Island, or Key West Islands, I think it is.
Yeah, I think it's Key West in Florida, like off of Florida.
Yeah, off the coast of Florida.
Right. Yeah,
Let me look it up. I don't want to mess this up. Key West Islands. Or like even the Virgin Islands and stuff like that. Like, yeah, I mean, people go to Jamaica and they're like, oh man, I've left the country. Like, I get that to a certain extent, but still, like, that's just one part of the world. Like, there's so
It's
much
the
other
West.
stuff.
Like get out of the West and
Yeah,
like
exactly.
see like other like vastly different cultures. So,
Yeah, exactly. Because like the East is way different. I mean,
way
and
different.
the thing is like a lot of you guys who live in like California, Florida, any main hub like Dallas, New York, like all these are main hubs. So literally, there's straight flights to these countries. Period. Hands
Exactly.
down.
Yes. Facts.
All the time. You
Like,
put a price alert on it, and then just keep saving your money. As soon as that price alert drops to the price you want, boom, buy that ticket. It might be 3 months out. It might be 4 months out.
I'll
But
give you an example. I think one time I was taking leave. I was at the military. I was in the military this time, and I was in Okinawa. I think it was in February. I took a flight straight from Okinawa to JFK, and it cost me like $900.
yeah, and I was
No cap,
pricing
like-
a ticket from Europe, so I priced it like 3 months out for me to fly from here, pretty much back to my family. It was like $850 round
Yep.
trip, like round trip,
Yep.
850.
Yeah, that was a round trip too. Yeah,
Think about how many, like all that. Oh, I went to the club. Oh, I went to Vegas for the weekend. I went to like, you have all these places that people are like, oh, I went there for the weekend. You spend all this money traveling in the States, and it's like you could have spent that same amount of money, got a passport, went to like, right, like what? Let me name off some things I've seen in my lifetime, at least being out. Like, Australia, that was kind of dope. Saw the Sydney Opera House. Also, what else? Japan, yeah, seeing Fuji, like amazing. I've seen the Swiss Alps. What else? I mean, Africa in general. Like, and the thing is, I still want to go to South Africa. And the crazy part is, the parts that I went to in Africa weren't even like the best parts. Like, there's like a whole like vacation spot in South Africa, off the coast of South Africa. There's like a bunch of islands that are just like resort islands, like things like that. There's like another resort that's literally at the top of a waterfall, like, and it's not crazy expensive to see these places. I've been to Iceland, I've been to Greenland, and these are all places that you can fly into. Like, if you get to Europe, you just use Ryanair, and literally, I think for me to fly anywhere in Europe, round trip is probably like $25, period. Like you can plan these things out so that you hit these countries like how you want to. Like, you could literally see all of Europe, and not all of Europe, but you could see a good portion of Europe on like a 2-week trip. And the thing is, like, if we're thinking about that, compare European culture to American culture, where Europeans as teenagers and like 21 to, or like, let's just say 18 to like 25, they travel the world. They literally, instead of going to school, some of them are just like, I'm gonna just travel the world. So the economy is kind of built around like travelers somewhat, because you can just show up in the city and be like, hey, I'll work here so I can get a hostel or something like that. Like I've seen it happen. I mean, you can hitchhike out here, probably some of the safest hitchhiking that you can find, because everybody's like, well, I'm heading out to Paris anyway, so yeah, I'll take you. And then you have a conversation, you meet people.
And me and Will are not saying all this just to flex. Like honestly, like I'm telling, I've seen it firsthand where people are just like so ignorant, so close-minded to certain things because they're just stuck in the same city for like years, for decades, their whole lives. It's like if everyone were just to travel, like I know everyone might not have the opportunity or the money, but if everyone just saved up for 1 year or for a couple months or whatever and said, hey, I'm gonna go to this country and just see the world, it will change your life, will change your mindset,
change your whole perspective on like what is possible. And that's the thing too, is like I never try to brag or say anything like that. I genuinely want people to see the world because I've had the opportunity to see it, and I've met amazing people in the world. Like everybody's like, oh, I haven't found my soulmate, this and that. You could go, your soulmate might be in Europe, your soulmate might be in Japan. Like no cap. Like I remember I was out one night in Japan and I met this couple, and they kind of changed my life around. They were, I think it was back when I was like 25, 26. And they were like 32, 35. And I'm out here like, not like depressed, but I'm just kind of like, man, like I've been doing this military stuff for a while. Like, what do I want to do with my life? Like, do I want to stay in? I was at that turning point where I was like either going to get out or stay in. And I was like, I don't know what I really want to do. So I'm like thinking about this nonstop. And I run into this couple and they're like celebrating their wedding anniversary. So they're just like, hey, we're traveling and all that stuff. And I'm like, oh, cool. I'll drink to that. I'll buy you guys a drink and everything like that. And they're like, oh, we appreciate it. And they kind of started telling me their story where he was like, yeah, at 28, he was like, I was broke. He was like, she had just lost her job. We didn't know what we were going to do. And they said, well, we're not going to just give up. And they said from here until they wanted to get married. They said he had pretty much proposed to her. He was like, I don't have a ring right now, but I promise to you that I'll make this happen. And essentially they worked hard for the next 4 years to the point where they eventually ended up in Japan on their honeymoon traveling. And he was like, yeah, now I have a really good job. She started her home business and everything like that. And they were just like successful because they put in the time. They realized that they weren't going to get instant gratification, but that was like a life-changing event for me because I saw them go from like, they were like, yo, you're so young still, you still have all this time to do all these things. And I'm just like, nah, that's never going to be me. I'm 25, 26 thinking like, yo, I'm just doing so horrible in life. And they literally had less than me at 25 and 26, and they were still optimistic and still like trying to be positive about things. And that just goes to show you that maybe you're not going to meet the right person in the States as far as like what you're looking for in life. Sometimes it's just,
for sure,
you have to put yourself in a situation that you could never think that you would ever be in. And that's like my biggest advice for anybody coming up. Like, I know I don't want to make it sound easy or anything like that. Like, it's going to suck.
It's not.
It takes discipline. It takes like a lot of time of just like building yourself up, finding a hobby that like, there's a lot of motivational speeches that I listen to, and I don't listen to motivational speeches just because I'm like, oh, I'm sad and depressed. Sometimes I'm just like, I just want to hear something positive in my life, because with all the social media and everything like that, is kind of just like, nobody's really going to be in your corner all the time to tell you like, hey, you got to get up, you got to go to the gym, you got to do this, you got to do that. So why not do it for yourself? And YouTube is a platform where you can literally get that instant gratification. If you want instant gratification, get something that's going to push you towards something better.
Get instant gratification that's positive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
that's going to motivate you and push you past what you can do. Because I guarantee you, like, half the things I've done in my lifetime, I never could have imagined, like, yo, I would be in like Spain or Italy, like eating at McDonald's in Spain. Like, what? Like, who thinks about that? Like, as a kid, I was like, yeah, I want to travel the world, but I never really knew what that meant until I was living that dream. And I was like, that was something that was always with me. It's like, I knew I wanted to travel the world. I knew I wanted to do these things. I just never knew how I was going to get there, but I kept working towards it every single day. And I really just want this video to be something that's positive for people. If you're looking for an answer, if you're looking for guidance in this world where it feels like everybody's fighting against you, or you don't have loyal friends, you don't have people who are there for you. At the end of the day, you got to do it for yourself, and eventually find friends who will do things with you. Like, if we think about me and Pop, how we started this podcast, it was like we were both working, doing the same exact stuff. Grinding our channels, grinding. And then it got to a point where it was like, why don't we just work together? Like,
exactly.
It literally made everything 10 times easier. And
it just clicked.
Yeah. And then Graham came along and he was like, yo, I'm all about it. And even though everybody sees me and Graham argue and all that stuff, like, we talk like normal, like we're not like, we don't hate each other or anything like that. He's going through a lot of stuff right now as far as his personal life. So that's why we're doing this. We just want to put out content at this point. But even with Graham, he brings another, let's just say, wild aspect, radical. That's what I'm going to say. He might say other things, but I'll let him explain that on his next show. But as far as this channel goes, just as far as like, we got to do it. But our channel is kind of built around, we want to bring positivity for sure. We want to just vibe out. We just want to have a place where people can kind of just come and vent. So if you drop your information in the comment boxes or anything like that, you can even DM us. We have, all our social media stuff. We're still working on growing our channel and building it. So we want this to be somewhat of a safe place for just anybody who has common interests with us. Even if you want a topic for us to talk about or dig into, or you find something interesting that you don't see enough content on, hit our line. We'll do it. We don't care at this point.
Facts.
Like, I'm down to talk about anything. Everybody knows Graham is down to talk about anything, like, period. Like, my man will literally talk you to death. But it's always a good vibe. And then Pop is always going to be the moderator. Meditate. Like,
I'm in the background thinking about the memes.
Yeah, this man's meme game has been on point. Like, and Graham has been supplying this man with juicy content. But
yes sir.
Yo, chill. We're gonna make a new Birdman meme. But that's the thing, is like, truthfully, like, if we wanted Pop to grow into the next meme, like, yo, just help us out. Like, because it really starts with, like, you make the meme, share it to another friend, they share, and that's how you grow. Like, and we want this channel to grow into something a lot bigger. I want to be able to say, like, hey, I'm a Black CEO, I'm a CEO of,
for sure,
like, I'm not gonna say the name. It's still but it doesn't matter. No, I know how to say it. I just don't want to crucify it on stream or on the recording. But I mean, that's what our content is pretty much trying to bring. And Pop, you can talk more about like what you want to bring as far as your aspects, but that's what I want to bring.
So my aspect, like, you know, me and Willymane are two different individuals, but we're pretty much on the same page on a lot of things. Sorry about that. But as you said before, like, you know, we're just here to create a safe space, not only for Black nerds, but for any type of nerd, for anybody who wants like someone to talk to, like, hit our lineup. You know, we can probably, especially if you're young and growing up, as I said before, like, you know, get your passport, get your purpose together, make sure you have a goal in mind to be successful. You can do it if you put your mind to it. Not to say this just to be like a cliche, but like, it's true. Like, you know, you just put your mind to your goal and make sure it's financially feasible, get your passport and get out there and get it done. You know what I mean? Our socials are in the description box, and don't forget to subscribe. It's free. You know, it helps us out. It helps us out a lot. And yeah, that's all I have.
So we'll end this stream here, and then we're probably gonna see if I can get Pop to stay up a little bit longer and talk about this Don Dada.